Welcome to Basically Sci-Fi, the short storytelling podcast where we tell stories you can basically call sci-fi. I'm Jared.
I'm Todd.
And I'm Adam.
All right, well, do you have a story featuring a slightly too old protagonist?
Probably. I didn't give any of my characters ages, so you can assume that some of them are elderly if you would like.
Well, since I'm also assuming that they're all doing it, I'm putting them in their 30s, when you were most sexually active.
I don't know about that.
Happy birthday, Adam.
Thank you. I'm not 30 yet.
No.
Well, then, you got something to look forward to.
Yes.
Yeah.
I can't wait for my back and knees to hurt even more.
Tell me about it. The day after my 35th birthday, I hurt my back bad enough that I haven't been working full-time in a month.
Oh, God.
Oh, no.
It was just
You all gotta
surreal.
be careful. I'm gonna start wearing a back brace.
I wasn't doing anything ridiculous. I was just at work doing regular shit.
Yep.
But anyways, my episode this week is called Looking for Help because I had another name the last time we recorded it, but I didn't write it down, so I forgot it. Glorda, Frunga, Ted, and the apparition of Randall made their way into the ruins. It was frosty out this particular morning, and the sun was just starting to melt the frozen dew off the local plant life. The ruins themselves were pretty impressive, Frunga thought. The civilization couldn't have gotten far into the Bronze Age, but they left behind a pretty massive sprawl of housing nonetheless. All that was left was stone foundations and the occasional statue that were, presumably, modeled in their maker's image. The people that had lived here, according to these statues at least, had looked like fairly normal humanoids, on the top half, but with legs more akin to that of an insect. 6 in total, but with a segmented body, all said, a curious folk.
Fairly normal. Curious bug centaurs.
Well, I mean, the people from Alabith they all have odd numbers of limbs.
I guess it's your standard of fairly normal.
Yeah.
Slightly different from mine, though.
All depends on what you think is normal. That's what I tell myself every day. As they moved through the ruins, Frunga noticed that the sculptures were growing increasingly grotesque. The group didn't know this, but there's good reason for the nature of these statues.
Oh boy.
Many millions of years ago, the first space-traveling civilizations in the galaxy began searching for others. They sent out ships to older parts of the galaxy with the hopes of finding these people. For the most part, they were unsuccessful. They did manage to find a few planets on the verge of taking the steps necessary to escape their homeworlds. Some of the ships stayed behind with these planets and guided them towards exploration of their own. Others went back with reports of the dangers awaiting them when the more violent worlds came forth. This last civilization became known as the Helpers to many worlds. Little is remembered of them now, as once the other planets made the leap into space, they retreated back to their own homeworld, for reasons that were unclear to those they had helped. I am here to tell you that their plan was always to retreat. Once they were relatively certain that there was no one nearby that outclassed them technologically, the Helpers left instructions with the civilizations that they deemed trustworthy to avoid their planet, but send along information about any other nearby spacefaring cultures they came across. Most of the Helped agreed, and for many millennia following, supplied information to the Helpers about the development of the galaxy over time. And while they aided the worthy planets, the Helpers began to focus instead on the unworthy, the planets that wouldn't or couldn't behave.
Undesirables, apparently.
Some argued that these worlds should be given a fair chance to move past their violent or self-destructive tendencies. Most disagreed, however. The Helpers began sending probes to these planets to study the violent natures of the new cultures. After many years, patterns began to appear from this research. The civilizations that showed signs of self-destruction, interpersonal violence, extreme capitalism, and a propensity for building weapons at the expense of their own people's well-being. From this, the Helpers found that they could predict the evolution of new worlds. There were plans conceived, plots made for every potentiality on these developing planets, from missionaries sent to guide development from an earlier stage to natural disasters designed to realign the mentalities of the citizenry. Many of the worlds guided changed their ways and went on to become productive members of society.
With just one natural disaster?
I said disasters, plural.
Because I'm wondering when it's going to work on our planet.
Maybe the next one.
Yeah, but ours are actual natural disasters, not ones that come by design.
No, there's no way to know that for sure. I've seen Ancient Aliens.
Yeah, that guy does have some fun hair. Others couldn't be bothered. They went about their hate and continued to develop out of spite. Now the Helpers had a real issue. Should one of these worlds make it to the point of interstellar travel, they could cause untold chaos in the galaxy. And once again, a plan was hatched. This time, instead of trying to manipulate the worlds in question through guidance, it was clear to most that some sort of direct action would be needed. But outright attacking these planets was deemed icky, and no one really wanted to see their hands get dirty.
Good.
Now, all of these events were seen, discussed, and acted upon over the course of millions of years. And so, naturally, the strategies shifted over time. Some worlds had their populations neutered, so the existing civilizations would die off and nature could try again. Some were subjugated, subjected to rule by nearby worlds with a stake in the local economy. And a very small number whose populations had risen and collapsed multiple times, either naturally or by the hand of the Helpers, and yet still only showed signs of rage, were deemed irreconcilable losses. These worlds were then provided a large obelisk, which would, invariably, attract any intelligent life. The population of these planets would congregate around the obelisk. This would then lead to the stagnation of the society developmentally, as they became increasingly obsessed with the object, and eventually would lead to a new intelligent life form taking over the world, only to fall into the same trap their predecessors did. Glorda, Randall, Brunga, and Ted made their way through the ruins. The buildings became more intricate. Houses and homes began to look more like castles and estates. Why is the architecture so different here? Ted asked everyone and no one at the same time. They're from different civilizations. They all seem to have risen up around the obelisk. Some of them worshipped the older buildings as well, assuming they were linked in some way. Others just built out around the existing buildings, Randall answered. And what makes you think that? Glorda asked. Well, it's obvious, isn't it? Not really. No, it seems like a logical leap. Frunga interjected. They all stopped and looked at him. Okay, yeah, maybe it was, but the increased wear on the older buildings is apparent beyond just the decay. This doesn't matter. We need to get to the obelisk and see if we're safe here, Glorda said, abruptly ending a conversation I didn't know how to. It took another half hour to walk the rest of the way to the center of the ruins. This planet's obelisk was truly impressive. About the size of a 10-story building, it glowed a faint blue color and seemed to hum a quiet, low frequency. That humming, Frunga pointed out. I would guess it resonates across the entire planet. I need to interface with this beacon to find out what exactly is going on. Glorda and Randall left her to it. They began to walk around the base of the beacon. It's incredible, isn't it? Glorda asked. It is. You see these etchings along the bottoms? They're the writings of the Helpers. I thought they were just a legend. How can you be sure? I don't know. I think something about what it's done to me is giving me an insight. And how can you be sure of that? I don't think I can be. But it stands to reason, doesn't it? Not really. We don't have any idea what's going on. It seems to me that you're just jumping to conclusions based on wild speculation. I'm not jumping to any conclusions. I know the helpers are supposed to just be a myth, but think about those myths. This ancient obelisk that draws all intelligent life to it. This world must have once been deemed hopeless by them. I think you should turn back. And what of you? Do you think I'm just going to leave you here? Glorda said, concerned at the implication. It's for the best. I don't know that I could leave if I wanted to, Randall said, finally admitting to himself what he had been thinking since he first set eyes on the structure, that he wanted nothing more than to be close to it. Glorda could see it in his eyes, a guilt and eagerness, like he was about to take the last piece of pizza at someone else's party. Meanwhile, Frunga was busy studying the obelisk to find a way to interface with it. Why would you want to do that anyways? Ted asked. Because if I can, it might shed some light on its purpose. Yeah, but what if that purpose is scary?
A very reasonable concern.
Then we shut it down. Well, I guess I should try and translate the writings on it, huh? Ted said, deciding that if Frunga didn't want to shirk responsibilities to chit-chat, then she could at least make herself useful. It had been some time since her former profession of communications officer had come in handy anyways.
Gentle reminder.
The two of them sat in relative quiet for some time. Then Randall and Glorda returned from their little walkabout. Have you found anything out? Glorda asked. Not yet. Can't seem to find a way to connect with the thing, Frunga answered. Well, that makes sense. They probably didn't want anyone mucking about with it, Randall said. What do you mean? Did you find out where it came from? Frunga asked impatiently. No, he just has a stupid theory that he thinks is fact because being dead told him it was true, Glorda replied. Well, it's better than nothing, which is all we have right now. So let's hear it, Frunga pushed. It was sent by the helpers to discourage natural evolution on this planet, Randall said a little sheepishly. Okay, who the fuck are they? Why do they think discouraging evolution is helpful? Frunga asked. Oh, come on now. Everyone knows the stories, Randall said in some shock. She's from a different universe. I only know about them from you. It probably just hasn't come up, Glorda said, before going on to explain the legend with some help from the others. So you're saying no one has seen them in millions of years? Frunga asked when they were done. Right. Like I said, he's just speculating wildly, Glorda answered. But no, I think he's right, Ted interjected. This writing, I knew it looked familiar from my ancient history classes. The only tangible proof anyone has ever come up with to show that the helpers do exist is a commonality in all galactic language. The words for starship, helper, and sausage are similar in almost every language. See here? It says on the obelisk, helpers was here. Now you fucked. Lol.
They said lol.
Yeah.
I wonder what it means.
Does it say anything else? Or just crude mockery? Frunga asked, starting to like these people.
Of course.
Yeah, there's a bunch of stuff about how the denizens of this world have been condemned for the crime of irrational violence and blah, blah, blah. Oh, here it is. If you wish to petition the helpers for clemency, you can access a beacon on the interior of the structure with the help of the dead, or if you show it a nice time. Whatever that means. Great. Take me in, Randall. Hopefully everything will be pretty self-explanatory, Frunga said without much hope. Wait, are we sure it will be safe? Glorda asked, with some significant concern in her voice. Maybe you should bring me to translate, Ted said. No, you two stay behind. What's the worst that could happen? He's already dead, and I'm volunteering myself. It's no one's fault but my own. They all looked back and forth for a minute before Randall spoke up. Well, she has a point. He walked up to the structure, and as he touched it, his hand passed through. He took Frunga's hand in his own, and before he could say anything to reassure the others, they were pulled inside. To be continued.
To have a nice time.
Yeah.
That's some, I don't know, faulty logic there. You say you're volunteering yourself for something dangerous and it's no one's fault but your own. But, I mean, the others are concerned. So, I don't know. It's selfish.
Sure.
Yeah.
But now they're all stuck together.
But I mean, they don't know what's going to happen when they go in there.
No.
So she's
they all got volunteered.
Concerned for the others' safety as well as her own.
I guess so.
Yes. Yeah.
Well, there was the other option to show the giant, long obelisk a nice time.
Yeah.
Which I assume means, like, taking it to Olive Garden,
Yeah, maybe.
That must be what they were doing, building a city all the way around it and, like, worshipping it. That's one way to show something a nice time.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe.
Obelisk worship. That's one of the tags I look for.
Obeliskly. That's exactly what it needed.
I don't know about
that. I loved how halfway through, I thought Randall was basically just being the narrator, like telling us, because we don't know anything about the helpers, but because we are also from a different dimension.
Mm-hmm.
And so he's telling us things like, oh, there's writing here, and they were built out around the obelisk. Mm-hmm. And I thought he was just being a narrator, but then you used that as foreshadowing, which you always do really well, right? Like, no, hold on, you don't just exposit things like that.
You can't be sure.
You can't be sure of that. You got psychic ghost powers. Fuck out of here.
Oh, Glorta addresses that. She's like, he has some information that being dead makes him right, or something like that. Where is it?
Right.
Yeah, she says something along those lines.
What are you going to do, argue with the dead guy?
Yeah.
So, yeah,
once again, respect the dead, but you also can't commit libel if the person is dead. So, say what you want.
I thought you could say whatever you wanted after someone was dead.
Although, since I can never trust that anything that's happening in your stories is like what's really happening in your stories.
Oh, yeah.
Now I'm like, is Randall really dead?
Who knows? I do, knows?
But... Well, apparently they need the help of the dead to get into the obelisk, so I don't know. I'll take your word for it this time that the character that you said is dead is actuly dead. But I'm just saying, I'm on to your game.
Yeah.
Anyway, a nice setup for the next story. I'm definitely intrigued as always, right? You've always got me waiting for the next mind-blowing twist that I don't see coming. That you lull me into the trap of thinking that I know what's going on by having characters walk around rationally discussing things.
Yeah, discussing what seems to be going on. And then you find out that they're just idiots.
Yeah.
Or they're in a coma or something, and it's like, wake up. No, this is real.
Well... I'm not expecting that. That's a little bit too cliched. I don't think he would do that.
But I don't know. Cliches are funny.
It was all that might actually be equally as funny as when you burned your main character at the stake at the end of a story after you spent all that time developing her.
Yeah. I forgot about that.
That might actually be hilarious if you set up a great story just to end it on a horrible cliche. I might laugh. I might be mad. I might laugh. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm not sure. That might just make me mad. So I don't think I'll do that. But
it was all a dream, but the dream was the friends we made along the way. And
I used to read Word Up magazine,
and Ted died in Nam.
Just turn the last episode of the story into quoting Biggie Smalls.
And if you don't know, now you know.
You know. So yeah, next time we'll have a story from Todd in his universe. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, all that stuff that nobody ever does.
We should say that at the beginning of the episodes.
Yeah, we should probably say that right at the beginning.
While people might actually still be listening. But anyways, that's the end of the episode. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.